Do you ever get one of those elusive days all to yourself and you can think, yes, I can spend it in my craft room and be creative and it's going to be bliss? And you wonder just how much can I actually get done in one full day? Well, I have one of those very rare days today, and I'm going to find out how many art journal pages I can create in one day. I am not sure. I'm going to challenge myself to make as many as I can, but I'm not going to go crazy and do a big speed thing so that the pages are rubbish. I still want to like enjoy the process. But I'm wondering, am I going to run out of time or ideas first? Let's find out together. Plus, if you're feeling stuck in a bit of a rut, grab some supplies, join me, let's do some no pressure art journaling together. I think I am going to work in multiple journals today. I think that's probably the way to get the most done, because as bits are drying I can be working on another page. I'm quite keen to work on this one, although you have seen me work on this one a lot on this channel, but I think I've got about 8 pages left. To be honest, it could take me all my time just to do 8 pages, but I've kind of got these few pages here and then the back of this one. So then that would be a journal completed. I absolutely love this journal and haven't played with it for ages, so I'm really keen to do something in this journal. Also, one of my most popular videos on this channel was making these journals out of a planner, and I've not used it nearly enough. So we have this one, and then I do love this one. It's turning like one of my childhood favourite books into a journal. So these are the journals that I'm going to play with. It is currently 10:30 a.m. My plan is to keep going till about 6:30 p.m. because that would be an average working day, and we will see what we create in that time period. It's funny, sometimes when you've got the whole day and you've got loads of opportunity to create, your mind suddenly goes blank. So I sort of started off by warming up, gessoing a few pages, and then on the back of this page, which had bleed through from alcohol markers, I just sprayed a little bit of mica powder and let all of that dry. So that took like a good 20 odd minutes, and I still really hadn't accomplished anything. So whilst I let all of that dry, I thought I really must get on and do something. I need to do something productive. So I decided to pull out my Imalla journal, which is a gorgeous journal that I bought from Leonie Pujol. I have also been testing out acrylic markers, and I haven't really given these ones a bit of a test, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to play with them. As I swatched them out, I was delighted because I was thinking, wow, these are amazing, they're dead cheap and they seem to be working better than all the other ones I've got. But then as soon as I tried them on this paper, really struggled. So I decided just to kind of go for a quirky tree. When inspiration fails, if all else fails, create a tree. That's what it is like for me anyway. It's in my comfort zone, so it helped me to build up creativity. But I was really struggling with these markers, which made it very, very difficult. I don't know, they were really dry against the paper. So I just kept trying to build it up, and also I then experimented a bit later bringing in the hoo-hoo ones, and I think it's actually the paper and not the markers. But this is good because I'm building up to doing an acrylic marker video, and allowing me to test these different things is good experience. I need to clean that shell. I'm 1 hour in and I've done one page and I hate it. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you kind of get yourself a bit of time and then it doesn't go to plan. I really don't like it. I don't know why. But I also think sometimes it takes time to warm up creatively. Probably by the time we get to 6:30 we'll be cooking on gas. So I'm going to view that as a warm-up. It's after 11 o'clock and I'm normally one of these people that can tell the time by how much I need a cup of tea, and that's normally about 11. So although we have a cup here in the background, it's very cold. I'm going to get a fresh cup of tea and hopefully page number 2 will be somewhat better.
Prompt, but let's see what today's prompt is.
So I had Chantel Arts in the background watching her daily doodle series. I literally binge watched the entire series the day I was doing this, but it was good to have a little bit of inspiration going on in the background, and I decided to go for an idea that had been in my head for ages. We didn't see much of the stamping process there because for some reason I decided to keep my head in it through the whole thing, so I apologise for that. But anyway, image is now on paper, and we are now colouring up using pan pastels. Well, we're not, we're using Jane Davenport pastels because they are the pastels that I have in. But I'm really enjoying learning how to use these better, and I pretty much coloured up the whole thing just using the pastels. I just came in with some pencils to darken her hair a little bit, and I like doing that because I like to see the texture in the hair, and I'm not quite sure yet how to create that texture with pastels. So I'm quite happy with that. It's quite a soft look. I just sort of try and deepen some of the shadows with some black line work, add a few little sentiments, and that is that. Still not my favourite. I still felt like at this stage I was just warming up, but it was better than my first attempt. But after I had created this particular page, I went over to put it on my station where the other stuff was drying, including this hideous tree. And because I'd just had my black pen out to add doodles, I suddenly realised there's no line work on this page. So yeah, that's why it looks rubbish. So I suddenly realised, yeah, so this is a good lesson into sometimes step back, take a step back and look at it later, and sometimes it's glaringly obvious what it needs. Why this didn't enter my brain, I don't know, because this is how I do finish everything. Look how much better it looks with some line work on. So I went on with some black line work, some white line work, and then once I'd done that I was like, wow, I love this so much. And yeah, I was very, very happy. So happy, in fact, that I decided to do the exact same thing on the other page, but to experiment with different mediums. This paper takes mediums beautifully, and I think I was just irritated with the last one because I was struggling with the acrylic pens. So I thought I'll try it with watercolour and see how that turns out. So I'll not show you me building the whole tree because we've literally just seen me do that, but this time I'm doing it with paint. And I did some splatters, sprayed it with water, let it dry, and came on with the acrylic markers. This is when I discovered that I was having the same issue with these markers as well. So I do think it's the type of paper. And having learnt my lesson, we go in with some doodles just to finish it off, both black and white. And I quite like the fact that you can see two mediums next to each other. I think I slightly prefer the acrylic marker one. Now I've taken this background that I had done earlier with the mica powders and found this thing in my bit box. This is from a live that I did quite some time ago on reverse stenciling. I've got loads of stencil ideas on my channel. If you do want to check them out, I can put that to a link below. And this was a live that we did. So rather than use the whole page, I thought like some of the detailed elements could make quite a nice border for this. So I just fussy cut it out. Once I fussy cut it out, I then stuck it down using some tonic glue to do that, and then once I'd stuck it down I just sort of I decided to move that further down because we actually want it framing the page. I then sort of cut off the excess to that and then use that excess. Do this a lot, use the tiny bits that you cut off in the moment. I mean, to be honest, all honesty, I would save them and put them back in my bit box, but I very rarely use them. If I just do it in the moment, it's good, and it meant it had a frame on both sides. Kept this really simple. Just brought out some sentiments from Shiny Silver Treasures. These are Dawn's sentiments, and I love them. They're so very useful, but I kind of thought that looked a little bit white. So after I had highlighted them, I came back in with the mica powders. I tell you, I haven't used mica powders for ages, and I use them loads in this video. They're definitely a forgotten supply that I should have used more often. So I decided to colour in the letters and then also to create the shadow. As you can see, I'm just using the tiniest amount of powder that's actually just resting in the lid of the pot, and what I did was I just let that dry off again before I screwed the lid on, and it worked absolutely fine. I did also just move the rest of the mica powders out of the way in case I accidentally dropped water on, because that would have been a tad disastrous. So when I had done that, and seen as I had the mica powders out, I decided to prepare a little background, and I just sort of sprinkled some micas through a stencil, which I thought would give it quite an interesting effect. And after I had done that and the stencil was all messy, I then wipe off the stencil in my smaller Imalla book. And again, you don't see much of this because I decided to stick my head in the way, but we just sort of wipe it off, and we've created some backgrounds for a bit later on. So we're now at 2:30, halfway point, and I've only done 4 pages. So we've kind of stuck to this page an hour. I would like to pick up the pace. I'm hoping that I will. I have an idea. I've got a few backgrounds drying. I have an idea for the next page. So we will do that, and hopefully we can speed this process up somewhat. I treated myself to some Liquitex acrylic gouache when I was in Edinburgh in the summer for the Fringe, and as yet have not really used it other than swatching, so I decided to use it in my Pink Pig journal, and I just colour blocked it. I hadn't intended for all the boxes to touch each other, but you know, I kind of wanted to do this sort of pop art idea thing, and I've got some monsters from Art Inspirations, and for some reason I've not recorded this particular page very well. I kept missing out big chunks of it, but what I've tried to do is have the colour that is the direct diagonal opposite as the feature colours within the monster. So it was a very quick page that I put together. Now acrylic gouache does actually dry out if you do not use it, so again, bad videoing that I failed to get at the beginning of this, but just with what was left over in my palette I decided to create a background, and I did that by painting lots of squares. Then this bit where I'm pulling the colour, that was just to kind of get the final bits of paint off my brush. And I build it up by sketching around some of the squares and stenciling in some circles. Learned my lesson now, kind of doodle on everything now. To be honest, that's my normal style. Doodle around these circles using white, and then I found a monster that's one of my own monsters. So this is from the Monster Mania collection, the digital kit, and this is one of the pre-coloured images, which you can just use as ephemera. Great when you're trying to sort of speed craft like I am today. It's kind of all done for you without needing to colour in. And then I just simply glue that down into the corner. I just thought with the busy background he was a little bit lost, so decided it needed some shadowing. So I then went in with a little bit of watered down black gesso just to create a little bit of shadow in the corner, and it does work. He does pop, but I don't like how it looks. So now I go to try and brighten it up. So I pull in my acrylic markers, draw a few little stars. Didn't really like how they looked, so then outlined them, which did make them look a little bit better, but then we lost the brightness again. So then I came back again with the white pen and tried to add lots of white doodles. So we have a few stots. That's a cross between star and dots. We have a few stars and a few dots, and just tried to really lift the page up and make it look a little bit brighter, and then ground him so that he looks like he's standing on something. These sentiments come in the same digikit as well, so I've just put down "so fabulous it's scary." And that is another page quickly done. We're definitely going faster now. Add a few little splatters just to, again, try and make it pop. Having the contrast of both the black and the white does help to make your colours look a bit brighter. That was a quick and easy page, and I'm happy with it. So I've gone back to one of the pages that I created before my lunch break with the stencil background. In my head, when I created the stencil background, I was going to go steampunk, but I have been looking through my bit box and pre-coloured images to try and speed up the process, and I had nothing steampunkish that really went. So instead I thought I could use this girl and she could be sat on a cloud. So I painted in the cloud, hated the way that looked, then tried drastically scribbling all over it with white to make it look more fluffy and cloud-like. It looked okay, but I wasn't really thrilled with it at this point, so I just kind of thought, it'll do. It'll do. So then I stuck the girl down, and the idea is sort of she sat there with her little baby alpaca, giving it a cuddle in the moonlight, sat on a cloud, because that's a perfectly normal thing to do. So I put the cloud in and then decide that maybe if I outline the cloud it will look more cloudish. So add a little bit of black outlining to it, and I do think that kind of lifted it a little bit. Was slightly happier with that. But when I create pieces like this, I also like there to be a little bit of a glow. So after I had outlined it, I decided to come in again a little bit later with acrylic markers again. So after I'd kind of outlined the cloud again to try and soften that, I then sort of started adding some yellow details, which I did by first adding little star stamps and then colouring it in with the acrylic markers. All looking not too bad. This page, it was a series of sort of like mistakes that actually ended up leading to it working in the end. And if it hadn't made the mistakes, it probably wouldn't have worked quite so well. So at this point I'm thinking, yeah, it's looking good, but we need a bit more reflection from the moon. So I go in with the acrylic markers. Hated how that looked. So then tried to lift it, but of course it's acrylic, it doesn't lift. So then I went in with the white acrylic ink and tried to erase it, which kind of softened it. So that worked better because it had a glow and it was softened. And then I realised, oh, I could put that on the cloud. So then I put it on the cloud, which softened the cloud, but then I lost the shadowing. Then I picked up the shadowing, and now actually, through the mistake of the glow and trying to fix it with a white acrylic ink, I quite like it. So that turned out quite good. But after that had been such a struggle, I decided that I just needed a nice, easy page to reset. So what could be easier? I'll pull out a piece of rice paper, I will tear it out, I will stick it in my book, layer up some extra elements, and it will be fine. Or so I thought. Man, did I struggle with this page. It was absolutely ridiculous. So this is some of my musicality rice paper. It's the only rice paper I've ever done. It's actually more like sumo paper as opposed to rice paper. So it's a little bit thicker. And so sometimes you don't get the same transparency as you would, but you can still make it work. So first of all, I tear it all down to size. And once I have done that, I then stick it down into my my book using a gel medium. Now, I kind of just didn't want to just have a bit of paper and stick it. Even though this is my artwork and I've already collaged it, I just wanted to do something extra in my actual art journal. So I pull out, as I say, the different elements from the paper and sort of try to re-layer it. But then once I had done that, I just found it didn't kind of really blend the way I wanted it to. So I pulled out some acrylic markers to help me with the process of blending, and it worked on that camera, but when I tried to add detail to the girl or to the background, there's some sort of coating on this paper that didn't allow it to really pop like acrylic markers normally do. So I took a step back and added some clear gesso and let that dry, and then that allowed me to work with more mediums. So the first thing I did was come in with like a yellow glow. I must have had yellow glows on the brain after the last page, but I decided to add a little bit of paint with a little bit of yellow glow to that, and then some pink splatters. And then the little extra details that I was trying to add to the page worked so much better once I had added that clear gesso on. So I was able to add those little yellow dots to her hair and a little bit of extra detail to the butterfly. And once I had done that, I kind of just called this one a day. It filled the page, and you know, I was basically really wanting to try and fill this journal, and so I was rushing. But actually, upon reflection, it looks okay. I can live with it. We have actually been picking up the pace. So I've been going for another 2 hours, and this time I've done 4 pages, so we've doubled our speed. I would still really like to finish this journal, but we're talking 2 hours and 6 pages. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but that would be awesome if I could. I have got tea and sugar. And yeah, I am just going to keep plugging my way through this particular journal. I think it's easier, the pages are smaller, and I feel quite motivated because I really want to finish it. I think that would be an amazing goal to achieve today. But we'll just see how we go. So BitBox to the rescue. If I want to finish this journal, I'm going to have to really rely on the BitBox. Now this is a complete cheat page. Because I do lots of work on Telebox Land, I have to make things at different stages, and I quite often end up with sort of pretty much almost made cards like this. So I literally just stuck it down and put a frame around it. It's fine. It's better being on display in my journal than stuck in a box. So for this one, again, I found these circles in a box. These were all cut out from when I did the workshop. I didn't want to do the exact same sort of page that I did at the workshop. I did mix it up a little bit, but we have sort of circles coming down, and then all I kind of do is try and grind her so it looks like she's standing on something. So we kind of do a mixture of acrylic markers and pen work, but then I decided the bottom half of that circle is annoying me. So I tore it off and then sort of coloured back over it with the acrylic markers. That's what you got to love about acrylic markers. They're nice and opaque. They're very good for hiding mistakes. So I managed to do that, and again, because I've learnt my lesson, lots and lots of doodle work, because it just makes everything look so much better. So we doodle around the big circles, and we doodle around the small circles, and then we doodle again in white. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So yeah, hooray for Bitbox. Do you know what? It does show that if you are needing a burst of creativity but don't have a lot of time, having a Bitbox is absolutely brilliant, because you can literally, I think that probably took me 5-10 minutes, but it means you can literally with a couple of minutes pull out a few bits and pieces and create a page, and you've had that kind of creative hit for the day. And it's just really good. You don't need oodles of time. It's great luxury when you get it like I had in this day, but if you don't, you can still do something to make you feel good, because creativity is something that is essential for all of us, and not having it can affect our mental health. So I'd highly recommend a Bitbox. Great for quick crafting. This is another thing that was in my box. This was a free digi from last year. Again, I will link to it in the description box below. And I wanted to try out the background technique that I see done by Furry Little Peach all the time, where she drops acrylic ink into the background, and I just love the icy feel it's created. I really struggled getting these trees though. I wanted them like soft snowy trees, and when I tried it with white they were too lost, and then I tried putting colour in, and I actually probably should have left it about there. That's probably about the right softness, but I was really wanting it to look snowy, so I went back over with white. It's technique that I need to learn and perfect, but I love how it turned out. Then another rummage in the Bitbox, I have Libby's Bakery, so I just fussy cut her out, ground her, add lots of dots to the background, and then doodle around the dots. It is currently 7 minutes past 6, and I've just finished this journal. I really didn't think I was going to manage to complete a whole journal. Yeah, but we have, and I've still got just under 25 minutes to go. So I'm going to see what we can create in 25 minutes and see if we can knock a few more pages out. I'm absolutely delighted, because for half of today I thought this was never ever going to happen. And I have to say, I've just gone more and more simple, which shows that you don't need to take a long time to journal. If you've only got 5-10 minutes, something out the Bitbox and a few little doodles, and I'm done. Oh, right, let's see what else we can manage in it. Well, we're closer to 20 minutes now. 20 minutes, let's see what we can do. So to try and squeeze one last page in, I have pulled out that background that we created earlier with the mica powders. This is in my small Imalla journal, and I have to say I don't really like it as much as the big one. The big one I love. The paper is gorgeous, and as well as being gorgeous, it takes a lot of abuse. This stuff doesn't. It's really thin, and I don't like it as much. But I think going forward I will be gluing 2 pages together, which is what I did here, for it to be able to take the mediums. I then sort of coloured in using some acrylic markers. I think if you didn't do that, you would end up ruining some pages that you liked, so I think it's just the best way going forward. And I create this glowy effect by just adding lots of yellow around about the main image. I finished it off with a quick doodle, and that was it. It's 6:25. 5 minutes to go before our challenge ends, and I have actually managed to very quickly knock out another journal page, which is very different for me, and I actually really like how it turned out. So I think sometimes like creating on a shorter time frame works. So to be honest, I have no idea how many pages I did. Shall we take a closer look at all the pages created and count up to see how many pages I did today, and we can have a little review of what I've learned from this day of crafting. So these 2 were done in my Imalla journal. This was the first page. I absolutely hated it when I did it, and then came back and just added doodles, and absolutely loved how it turned out when we had the doodles. So then did another one. I just wanted to see what the contrast of the mediums would be. This is entirely with acrylic markers, and this is a combination of watercolour and acrylic markers. Absolutely love these, and I kind of had to stop myself from drawing fantasy trees all day. So that's 2. So the next one was done in my repurposed planner. I have for the longest time wanted to colour one of these images by Erica on music paper or note paper. I decided also to play with pastels because they're my new favourite medium that I'm enjoying exploring. I do like how it turned out. I just wish I had gessoed the face ever so slightly so that you could see the notes, but they weren't as strong. But I am happy with the experiment and will probably be playing with that technique again at some point. So that's us up to 3. I went on a mission to finish this. So this is some thing that was in my bit box, and it was when I was doing some reverse stenciling in a live a while back, so I chopped that up and made this. Absolutely love this page. Really simple, not something I would normally kind of go for, but love how it turned out. That was a mop-up page, so we need to go back to here. This was some stencil work. I really didn't have this image in mind at all, but because I was looking for pre-coloured images to speed up the process, I thought she kind of went with the colourways, but I quite like how what was very steampunky in my head when I started has ended up looking like a starburst. I think this is really fun. We had a few things go wrong, but once I worked it out, I was really happy with that. This is the sort of, it's almost like pop art kind of style. I had wanted to have the squares separated, but I sort of misjudged it slightly. But I like how I did that. These are with some art inspiration monsters. Then with the leftover paint, we sort of built up a bit of a background, and then I pulled out one of my monsters. So that was a quick and easy page. So that was fun. This one took way longer than it should have done. I think I was like a full 20 minutes on this, and in my head it was just like, I'll just slap some rice paper down and that'll be that. But I kind of faffed about a lot more than I needed to. It's okay, not one of my favourite pages, but okay. But I think at this point I was just very much, I'm going to finish. This was a bit of a cheat page. Again, why you should have a bit box. So this was something that was in my bit box. This was like a leftover card from one of my TV shows, and I just literally put it down and added a doodly border. This one, I've sort of copied some of the pages that I've done before. That's another good thing about your journal. If you're stuck, you can sort of recreate something that you've done before. So this thing with the circles, I had them lying about. I'd done it in the workshop, but I just changed the image out. It's fun and it's interesting and I quite like it. This one I adore. I struggled with it, but I adore. I really want to try this technique. This was coloured up. This is one of my free digis. I will link to it below. This was already coloured up, and yeah, it took me a while to kind of work out the trees, but I'm loving the sky technique. We'll play with that with a bit more, but I think overall it's got a lovely, icy, gorgeous feel, and I'm quite happy with that. And then finally, in this one to finish off, again, Bitbox Girl that was already coloured up, and then just a whole load of doodles. Now, how many pages was that? So that's 1, ignore that one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're on 12 pages altogether. So that's 12. And then finally in my little Imalla journal we have this one, which is very different to anything that I've done. I love the way the light kind of comes out here. I think it looks like it's light up. It's also sort of a bit fanciful, not very realistic, but I do really love it. So that is 13 pages. So the answer to how many journal pages can I complete in one day is 13. Thank you so much for joining me this week as I have taken on this challenge. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back Friday with a brand new video. In the meantime, you may want to enjoy one of these, and I highly recommend my brand new series. I'm very excited about it, from sketchbook to craft desk. I will see you next week.